Welcome to day 29 of the 30-day video challenge, our second to last day. You might notice a little difference. Things are looking rather festive around here. We actually had belt testing this week, and we have belt graduation for Wednesdays and Thursdays. So belt testing is Monday and Tuesday, graduation Wednesday and Thursday. And since it's such a spectacular time to celebrate all of the students' hard work, we decorate the entire school in really awesome balloons and decor. So, in case I suddenly go out of frame because one of the balloons decides to have a mind of its own, then you'll know exactly what's going on. So, wanted to talk today about our life skills. So, pretty much I've talked about that. It's the main focus of what we do. We've talked about the logo and why we run it the way we do. Had an interesting conversation today. We had our meeting with Mr. Horton and several other of our masterminders, and it came to our attention that life skills are suddenly becoming very popular because people are understanding that they are good buzzwords. So, in particular, we have found that there are some gymnastics centers that are now adding in life skills to their program. Cub Scouts have always had some form of life skills, and they're similar to the Cub Scouts. There's several other programs that have always touted the life skills, but it was really interesting today from our perspective of where none of those other systems are going to work until they have the one key element that we do. And it's going to take them a really long time, if ever, to find that aspect because it took us 20 some years to figure it out. And what that secret sauce is that I, the instructor, the teacher, am a walking example of each one of those life skills. 20 some years ago, when we first started and we heard about life skills or we wanted to teach them, we would do what's called a mat chat. And there's still some karate schools that do it that way. And it is utterly, completely ineffective. And what this simply is you do all your karate class, you do, your punches, your kicks, your blocks, everything that you want to teach the kids, and then you sit them down for 5 minutes and you read them a story or you talk to them about a particular, life skill word, our word of the week, our word of the month. And then you say, great, go, bye. And now the instructor would beat their chest and say, great, I taught them life skills. Well, that's pretty much exactly what these new programs are going to be doing. And so while it's an enhancement to what they've been doing, it's going to be utterly ineffective. What we have found, some of the programs are actually using the old life skill processes that we used to use decades ago. And all it is here's a worksheet, hand it to the parents, and then you can say you teach life skills. And so there really isn't any teaching going on. It's more handing, and then the parents, as you know, are going to look at it and they're like, I'm already overwhelmed. I don't want to have to figure this thing out and add a whole nother thing to it. So what's different with what we do? And by the way, we're going to amp it up next belt cycle. Stay tuned for that. What we do is basically number one is we have a clear message on what our life skill is. For example, moving forwards, belief, right? Belief is having a yes, I can attitude. So not only do the kids know what the motion is, we anchor motions with the words so that helps the memory. Then we have them repeat it hundreds and hundreds of times so that way it starts to sink in and stick to the brain. Then we point out examples when they're using it so that we can celebrate and have an applause section and a quick cheer for them for showing that life skill. Then we ask them to practice it at home and we give them something specific like make your bed, things we've talked about before. So with all of that in place, the one element, even if every other program that wanted to copy us started to do, they're missing the example that the instructor is that life skill. Until that happens, it's not going to work. It's going to be utterly ineffective. And so what Mr. Horton gave us today was, wrote it down, shoot, we live the principles that we teach, right? So we are actually living confidence, belief, discipline, communication, honesty, and respect with self-esteem. And so because I'm a walking example of those, people can see the end result, and that's what people are interested in. They're not interested in the buzzwords. They're interested in the results that those life skills can give them. And so that's going to be the secret sauce that we have here that almost all other martial arts schools are missing. And definitely these new industries that are going to start jumping into life skills are certainly missing. Doing a mat chat, talking about the word. This is another reason why the school systems don't work. When you talk about anti-bullying or confidence, they have minimal effect because you're just talking at the child, right? Until the child sees the example and that person is the example, is teaching it as a role modeling technique, right? That is going to be the key ingredient that needs to happen. And again, martial arts is rampant with it as well. I myself was guilty for quite a while. Coming out of COVID, I was 30, 35 pounds heavy. I was pushing 240, 235, and was not the great example of physical fitness and or healthy lifestyle. So since then, boom, dropped about 25, 30 pounds, living a healthier lifestyle, living cleaner, making better choices. I can now talk to the kids about making sure that you make those good choices because I'm an example of it. We see instructors all the time that have messy uniforms. Their belt is all frayed and there's a long story behind that about the coolness of how dirty or how old your belt looks. Parents don't care about those old stories. Parents care about what are you doing for my kid or what is my kid going to learn from you. And so looking at those different opportunities is going to be a key element in the growth and success, the legacy. We'll tie that back in, the legacy of what we do. So there you have it, making sure that, and I guess the whole point where I want to wrap this up with is if you want your child to learn a particular skill or habit, you have to be role modeling that habit so that they learn it. That's another nugget. Until the age of 7, children's brain waves are in what's called theta. Theta waves are simply absorbing. So this is why another reason we love the little dragons, right? The little dragons or any child up until the age of 7 isn't able to differentiate good, bad, healthy, unhealthy. They just take in the information. Those become the building blocks and the foundation of your belief system as you get older. So that's how a lot of subconscious or unconscious limitations creep into your life. We all have them. The key is being able to ferret them out and get rid of them. And that's one of the ways. Or what are some of the things you were exposed to as a child that became a belief system later on? Give you a hard example. I remember in Psychology 101 in college, one of the first things we talked about were fear and how parents transfer their fears to their kids. So the story was there's a young boy and he's outside playing and he sees a little gardener snake and he's fascinated and intrigued by it. So he picks it up. His mother has a fear of snakes. So her instant reaction when she sees him playing with it is, put it down. So she startles and scares him. Well, he's now anchored that fear to that animal. All right. So now he develops a fear of snakes because his mother had that experience and passed it on. So with that in mind, when your child is 7 or before the age of 7, they are simply absorbing. And so I talked to Christy about this an awful lot. What message do I send our boys about treating women? And this is why a lot of times for the first couple of years when we first started dating, that it was important that there's a role model, right? And there's a bar that I set because this is going to be my expectation for them when they start getting into relationships and taking care of somebody else or just being partners with somebody else. And so you want to make sure that we're teaching these lessons well before, again, kill the monsters when they're small. Before the age of 7, right? They're just absorbing. What are the kids absorbing in your house? What are they absorbing at school? So once you start looking at those methods and those models, it becomes super important what you have your child see and not see. So again, a lot of times, another example would be, super young kids seeing horror movies. Now there's a debate, maybe I'm not saying it makes them violent. I'm opening up the mindset of, remember, they're in theta, so they're just taking that in, and that's going to affect the foundation of what? I don't have the data if that's good or bad. So that's up to you, the parent, to decide. But I do remember, right? Christy is a super huge horror fan. And when Donovan was about 5, we went to one of the horror hay rides. It was a haunted hayride. And of course, for us as adults and for his older brother, it was an interesting experience and it was a fun experience because right we enjoyed that thing. But then guess what? About 8, 9 months later, we started hearing Donovan was saying he's having nightmares and he's afraid of this and he's afraid of that. Right? Was it directly correlated to that? I can't say for sure, but we do remember at the end of that night, he was pretty scared. Right? There were a couple things that really freaked him out. And so at that younger age, remember, kids aren't able to defend themselves against negative or bad experiences. So it's a whole different process now when you think about it that way. And another aspect is we only have, like I said, until the age 7, they're in theta. And then from 7 to 12 is when we start to anchor their habits. By age 13, children's habits are pretty much 95% solidified. So whatever they have by age 13 is the belief system and the habits they're going to grow up with. So that is going to be one of the big things that I'm moving forwards with. And that's one of the huge things that I believe in and that I stand for here at Prestige Martial Arts. We're going to be making sure that we offer a great environment for kids to thrive in so that they can become the best version of themselves at any point. That's going to start with our new cycle, which is, again, belief, having a yes, I can attitude, and only positive self-talk every chance we get. Got some great new things I'm going to be introducing in the new cycle, so stay tuned for those of you that are coming to class, and feel free to ask me any questions. One day left. I'll talk to you tomorrow.